Shalom and welcome to this video. If you like it, please hit the like button and subscribe. My background is a Jewish background. However, it would not be correct to assume that just because I'm an ordained Orthodox rabbi, that my opinion necessarily will follow that of the majority of ordained Orthodox rabbis. It often does not. It sometimes does. In general, however, I am a Maimonidean. I follow the perspective of Rambam, Maimonides, the great sage who lived in this country where I am right now living in Egypt, 800 years ago. Rambam's perspective was that truth and goodness is God, above all, and that tradition would have to fit or answer to that. Now, as I read the book of Matthew, I have in mind four audiences. The first, of course, is myself. I myself am very interested in this sacred writ. From a general perspective, as a human being on earth, interested in knowing about the Bible that is considered sacred by billions of people in this world. And also as a person from the Jewish tradition. The Christian Bible, known as the New Testament, is incredibly Jewish. It was written, as far as we can tell, entirely by Jews. This Bible is not considered part of the Jewish Bible. However, it is very important writ, and within it, I would say a great deal of it I would consider sacred as well, both as a human being and as somebody who regards Jewish tradition and the Bible as sacred too. The second audience that I have in mind, and the one for whom it's easiest to speak, is the Christian audience, people who regard this as sacred. I find you the easiest to speak to because you're not going to hold me up as a heretic if I disagree with something, because you know that this is not the belief system that I come from. And at the same time, I can very easily express enthusiasm and appreciation for stuff, and you would appreciate whatever information I bring for you on the subject, because you love this book, perhaps deeper than I do, but I love it, and you love it, and you like the fact that I like it, and I like the fact that you like it. You're the easiest people to speak to, I think, regarding this. The next group of people is a group of people that probably think this isn't for them. They don't hold it as sacred. They might not know that much about it, but they probably have some interest. If you're watching this and your perspective is not to take the Bible as very religious, you should know that I myself feel similarly about the Jewish Bible too. As I said, truth and goodness above all. And if there's something, even in the most sacred of Jewish writ, that I can't say fits my understanding of truth and goodness as best I can comprehend it, then either I can put it in abeyance and say that, hey, I don't know, but what it seems to be saying, I'm not with. And I can even say I disagree with it. I'm not afraid to say I disagree with it, whatsoever. The most difficult group to speak to are the people whom, if I were speaking with them directly, would probably be pretty easy, but speaking in this public forum is pretty difficult. And that's Orthodox Jews, and other Jews who hold the Jewish tradition and Bible of great importance, but specifically Orthodox Jews. Because there's a very, very strong anti-Christian perspective, even an animus. And that's comprehensible when you look at history. It doesn't really fit the Bible itself, the Christian Bible itself. There's nothing specifically in the Christian Bible that's really all that offensive. The fact that you might argue that there's some idolatrous element or whatever else, that's fine. But, most people, including Orthodox Jews, have such a non-Maimonidean perspective on God that, truthfully, it's very hard to tease apart what exactly is idolatrous when you would compare many, many, many things that are considered acceptable and commonplace in that world that are not necessarily that dissimilar. And especially if you're going to go deeply theological in terms of how great Christian thinkers have described these different matters, you can easily find a way that it's not particularly idolatrous. But nonetheless, because of the reservations, it's hard for a lot of people, except scholars, that's really the only exception, to be able to relate to this text parv. Parv means neutrally, honestly, openly, without strong sentiments one way or the other going into it. And beyond that, to actually, and this scholars have a tough part with sometimes, some scholars yes, some no, but to actually love the stuff that's good, to revere the stuff that's good. And from an Orthodox Jewish perspective, there are elements here that are incredibly, incredibly religious. There's a video I put up on this channel on the very first paragraph of the Talmud. Orthodox Jews know I'm referring to the first Mishnah in Brachos. That's the first paragraph in the Talmud. And over there, Rabbi Gamliel, that's our great rabbi, our head rabbi Gamliel, is given the majority of that paragraph. A story about his family is given the majority of that opening paragraph of the Talmud, which I read and explain in some depth on this channel. And Rabbi Gamliel, although to be honest, there were two Rabbi Gamliels, descended one from the other, but Rabbi Gamliel, at one point, said regarding the early Christians, and bear in mind, this is before there was an official corpus that we would call the Christian Bible or the New Testament, Rabbi Gamliel was unsure what to do with these people. He considered it possible, and bear in mind, this does not mean that Rabbi Gamliel read the Christian Bible and said, hey, maybe yes, maybe no. Like I said, this corpus was not around. But in the very, very early days, shortly after the killing of Yehoshua, Jesus, as he's known in English, Jesus, Isa, whatever, all different languages, but the same guy, Yeshua. Yehoshua technically, but it seems likely that he was called by the nickname Yeshua. Shortly after his death, Rabbi Gamliel in the Sanhedrin, apparently, as far as it would appear, said that he didn't know what to make of them. It was very clear that some of the followers of Yehoshua were incredible human beings. Rabbi Gamliel stood up for them. Jewish history, of course, has gone on a long time, and it hasn't been that long ago when people who claimed that they were Christian were sometimes involved in terrible things against Jews, although, to be fair and to be honest, lots of Christian people, especially recently, have been magnificent towards Jews. Plus, this is difficult for lay people to realize, but scholars would agree with this. In general, not always the case, but in general, the more religiously Christian, knowledgeably Christian a community or an individual was, the less anti-Semitic they were, and the more that they were holding back popular anti-Semitism among illiterate plebeians. And this text certainly predates all of that. So now, let's have a look at the text. Unfortunately, as I'm not able to read Greek, and it would appear that this text was actually originally written in Aramaic before it was translated to Greek, but we don't have the Aramaic original. As I'm not able to read Greek, I have to use a translation. After studying the matter in some depth, I've decided on the ESV, the English Standard Version. But I'll be working off of that because checking all the different translations against the Hebrew original of the Old Testament, which of course is not the Old Testament, it's the Jewish Bible, I found that none of them really do a great job. And therefore, where it seems to me that even this English translation could do better, I will strive to do better. So, here we go. Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. I would probably assume this originally said, Zeh Sefer Toldos Yehoshua HaMashiach, Netzar David, Netzar Avraham. This is the story of the genealogy of Yeshua, the Mashiach, the Messiah, in various languages, including English today, Christ. But of course, what does Messiah, Mashiach, Christ, what do these things mean? They mean very different things. And unfortunately, after Christianity was cut off from the root, the Jewish root that it came from, there was a lot of misunderstandings that took place. So it's important to know what Mashiach means in this context. But for now, this is the genealogy of Yehoshua, the Mashiach, descended from David, that would be King David, descended from Abraham. That would be Abraham, the father of the Abrahamic religions. Abraham, the father of the Jewish people, and also considered the father of Islam and of Christianity and there are other monotheistic religions. So all of this verse requires explanation. What does it mean, Zeh Sefer Toldos? This is the book of genealogy. This harkens back to Genesis. There's a number of times where we have that expression in the Jewish Bible. And this, of course, is considered to be a continuation of the Jewish Bible. It was intended to be that continuation of the Jewish Bible. Not a New Testament, but a continuation of the original Testament of the Jewish Bible. So from that perspective, you have to know what they were doing. And then, what is Yeshua? What does that name mean? Who was he? In addition to the genealogy that it's going to read in a moment. What does Mashiach mean? What were the Jews looking for? The people who wrote this, what did they mean by Mashiach? What did they expect their readers to mean when they referred to him as the Mashiach? Which is different somewhat, by the way, to how Paul refers to Mashiach. A little bit different. Not that different, but somewhat. Paul, as you probably know, made some changes to the understanding that exists here in the gospel. Then why mention descended from David? And why bring up Abraham? Why not Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? What's the special thing about David and about Abraham that's important to list those two right over here? So in the next video, I'll be explaining all of that and the rest of this first chapter. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share this video, because really the only point in doing this is if there is interest. And please leave a comment. I'd like to know what perspective you come from. Which of the categories of people, I know you're not me, but are you somebody who's interested in this book without a religious tradition that you had fealty to? Are you coming from a Jewish perspective of some kind, and if so, which one? From a Christian perspective of some kind, and if so, which one? Please let us know in the comments so that I have a clearer understanding of who's going to be watching the next video. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.